Hi, awesome students. Welcome to your last week of the course. You all have been rocking out, working so hard. I know that we have a ton of work in this class, taking 16 weeks down to 6, but congratulations. You all have done exceedingly well. I want to thank you for your hard work, your thoughtful comments, your dive into anthropology. I hope it was at least a little fun. And I hope that you are able to take kind of the lessons learned from this course and apply it to your career, okay? And so that's why I have that first paper that you wrote about in your career and how you can apply anthropology. And then I hope you can apply it to your community, okay? That was your second writing paper, because if you can take an anthropological perspective, that kind of ground up view, that culturally relativist view, that no one culture is better than the other, or one culture has culture compared to the other. It doesn't even make sense to say that now. If you can adopt that approach, you're going to be so much more successful and kind, I feel like, in life, just in life in general. And so anyways, I hope that you've learned a ton, and I hope that you've enjoyed studying anthropology with me. I certainly have enjoyed reading all your posts, and I know we're in an online asynchronous format, and so we haven't had a ton of interaction face to face, but anyways, it's just been wonderful getting to know you through our course online. So with that, let me share the last week. Let's rock and roll through that. This is your last video recording, so let's go to our module. So what do you have this week? You're almost there. Now, first big thing, UW, because of the upcoming holiday and then the start of school, I have to have everything by Friday from you, okay? So normally everything would be due on that Sunday, but that's not the case. Everything will be due Friday, including exam number 2. I'm sorry about that. I don't make the rules. That's just how it is, okay? So this week is much less busy for you, okay? Because I know that you all are probably burnt out. You may even be taking more than one course. I hope not, but that would be a ton of work, right? And you work full time, you have kids, whatever you have going on. I know that it's a lot to do summer courses. So anyways, you have just one chapter to read from your textbook, one key online terms forum, and one discussion forum. Also, one extra reading, which is what is the impact of Africa's colonization. Very important reading, so you can understand globalization and our world economy a bit better. Okay, and then always we have that awesome student questions online forum. Thank you for your thoughtful questions and responses. Really, really love looking at these. And then you have your key concepts, for your exam 2. I don't have anything from this chapter specifically in your exam. This is more for you just to kind of see where we're at environmentally. Okay. So anyways, read through this chapter, skim this chapter a bit if you would like. Again, this is more for your understanding of the Anthropocene and where we're at right now, which is huge in our world, okay? And then always you have your exam number 2, and that's going to be due Friday. Let me know if you have any questions whatsoever. But let's go ahead and look at this PowerPoint on culture and sustainability. So this has really been my area of focus for my research, not only for my master's, but also for my dissertation and doctoral work and my postdoc work, actually. And I've studied all the things with environmental anthropology and how people and living cultures are associated with that environmental topic, okay? So for my master's, I focused on uranium mining in Wyoming. I have a couple publications on that if you're interested. For my dissertation and doctoral work, I focused on water policy in the state of Georgia and how stakeholders come together and influence policy, and then how we have the science policy interface, or whether we have the science policy interface, in how science can actually influence policy, particularly anthropological science. And then for my postdoc, I actually did out of University of Wyoming, and that was with Banner, BANR, and that was all regarding bioenergy and the use of wood for energy. And so I traveled around this region, and I actually worked on beetle kill and using beetle kill for energy, and talking to all the different stakeholders, all the different environmental groups, groups, logging groups, any individual, again, that's connected to that industry and kind of getting a sense of who influences that industry and why. Okay, so again, for me, if we go back to the other chapters on anthropology that you've all discussed and read, I have always done anthropology, cultural anthropology, by a problem that's defined. Okay, and then I do a multi-sided ethnography, going all these different places surrounding that one topic, talking to all these different stakeholders on that one topic. Okay, so there's a lot of different ways to do cultural anthropology, and my way, how I have done this, is just one. Okay, but I hope that that kind of sheds light on how research is conducted a bit more. So anyways, what I want you to take away from this is that we are in the Anthropocene. I hope that you have all already heard that term. If not, now's the time. And what this means is, obviously we've had a lot of different time periods, eras, that humans, anatomically modern humans, have been living through. The dinosaurs lived through. All these different eras had a term for them. Okay, so you may have heard like the Pleistocene, the Holocene. Well, scientists are now saying that we are in the Anthropocene. And if you, again, break down the words for me, anthro means people, right? Humans. And pocene means time. And so scientists are arguing that right now we are in the Anthropocene, the human time, very driven by humans, okay? And I would not argue against this. So when you are hanging out with friends and discussing stuff, I hope that you think back to the ideas that are presented in this chapter, because it's significantly important for where we're headed in the future. Okay. So basically, what is environmental anthropology? It incorporates topics like political ecology, Anthropocene, but it's basically how we look at the environment and humans and how they interact. It can be on a grand scale, okay, like climate change, or it can be on a smaller scale, like I researched, say uranium mining or water policy in a specific state in the southern United States, okay? And then with this work, we generally take it one step further. So we do engaged anthropology, we do applied anthropology, meaning we build recommendations from science, we go and talk to policymakers, we incorporate citizens into our science and key stakeholders, so that we can influence public discussions in public policy, okay? So I hope this is kind of a way to bring this all together for you, okay? But again, I just described this. So what are we doing right now? We're living in the Anthropocene. Here's a great definition: period in geological time in which the effects of human activities have actually altered the Earth. Okay, easy enough. And you can look out your window and you can see that. Now, you can always say, well, humans have always done that since, we were, even before anatomically modern humans. People have always impacted the Earth. However, to the scale that we are seeing now, not only based because of population, because there are more than 7 billion people, right? But it's also affecting larger systems like ozone, greenhouse gases on this much larger, grander scale. And so that's why it's the Anthropocene, okay? So we know that Homo sapiens sapiens are bipedal, meaning that you stand on 2 legs, okay? This changed a whole lot, meaning that we could use our hands for tool development, and this is what a lot of people claim it led to, agriculture and other types of really intense things, because now we have our hands to actually use things, okay? And so as we read in the last chapter and the last week, agriculture, as we know, has had a significant impact on our world, the Neolithic Revolution, okay, about 10,000 years ago. Bad and good, okay? You can argue. Jared Diamond wrote a book. The scholars argue that there are both positive and negatives. However, it's had a huge impact on our environment, and one of the main causes as applying to this Anthropocene movement, okay? So you read about cultural ecology, okay, how different cultures mesh with their ecology, and how they form their own cultural significance. their traditions, their practices, okay, how they use their technologies to work with their environment. So again, one of the most kind of looked at examples, and one that just pops to mind, and probably for you as well, is the Inuit, right? The building of their tools so that they could fish in very harsh environments, so they could live in very harsh environments, okay? But even thinking about Wyoming or other cultures, can you imagine the technology that we would have had to develop and that our ancestors developed if you're from here in order to be able to live here, okay? So I love the stories of my family. My great-grandmother lived to be 104, but her dad was apparently the premier sod house builder in the area. And so that's just interesting, using the resources that they had to literally build houses out of sod. Very interesting. Okay. But anyways, it's just how we use the environment and how that influences our cultural practices. Okay. Ethnoecology is another really big field in anthropology, in this realm, in environmental anthropology. And it's the use and knowledge of plants, animals, and ecosystems by traditional societies. I feel like we have gotten away from a lot of this in our society by focusing so much on that biomedicine, that Western approach, which it kind of separates from natural elements, right? And we're getting back to that with like homeopathic things, and but again, just how our mind body is connected, the foods, how the foods we eat, the de-stress, if we do anything like that to help our bodies. Anyways, there's a lot of information out there that we can learn from other societies. So this is again why we can't be ethnocentric about anything, because maybe the way that we do things isn't always the best. And I would point to ethnoecology as a very great example of how we need to learn alongside other cultures, because what they do can have really positive health impacts for us, okay? We've already talked about horticultural practices, okay? Ethnobotany, again, the study of foods, dyes, crafts, medicine, wonderful field. I know that there's a medical anthropology course, and so I would encourage you to take that at the University of Wyoming or wherever you might go. But again, this ethnobotany will be a part of that, but it's looking at your food, and it's looking at the traditional things that you might do in your culture, okay? Another thing that the book discusses is this idea of romanticizing, and I don't even like to use these words, but romanticizing indigenous folks as kind of their connection with the land, and this romantic fantasy, and how now we're in such a technoscape and focused on media and technology and the Anthropocene, that we romanticize this other type of life. But again, did they do that? Right? And why do we do that? Okay. And so anyways, you have to evaluate the different thought patterns you have and why you think of something and why you romanticize something. And I think that this is one of the big ones that we need to do, especially in Wyoming. I feel like there's kind of that ethos of this traditional Western life and romanticizing that cowboy kind of lifestyle. Why? Why is it romanticized when really, and talking to my answers, it was hard as heck and people died all the time, and it was really a tough time. So anyway, something to think about if you want to critically focus on something and have a critical thought, critical discussion on that. Again, I probably open it up in our class and talk about the things that you romanticize in your life and why. Anyways, political ecology is another huge factor with this. How governments, you already know about political ecology, how governments, how larger societies impact the environment, constrain local behavior. Again, politics is always going to be a part of this. That's what I did for my dissertation with water policy in Georgia, was the political ecology of water in the southern United States. And it was fantastic. Took me 2 years to research, another 3 to write up. Anyways, if you're interested in any of that work, just let me know and I can send you some research articles. But just know this, from a political ecology, everything that we do is tied with politics, especially when it comes to the environment, especially in America. And if I were you, I would keep an eye on water for the next decades to come, as I think that's going to be a huge resource that we're going to see a lot of interesting things happen with. So Anyways, I hope that you really enjoyed. Again, this is more political ecology. And then finally, there's a lot of trends with cultural anthropology toward this justice approach toward the environment, which is so incredibly important. I had a justice element approach toward my uranium mining. I don't know if you know this or not, but Wyoming provided a lot of uranium for the Manhattan Project, right? The very first bombs that we had, and that uranium came straight out of Jeffrey City, which is close to Lander, Wyoming. Some of you wrote about Lander, Wyoming in your last paper. Okay, my husband's from Lander, Wyoming. I've driven past Jeffrey City many a time. Anyways, there's the Gas Hills district out there, and they mined uranium, and they had underground uranium mines, and they were not, way back in the day, they were not ventilated at all. There was no air movement. And so all of these miners died in their early 40s from radiation exposure, cancer. And so anyways, there was a huge environmental justice movement with this, which led to the Radiation Exposure Compensation Act in the 1980s. And they repaid families of those miners who had died so young due to radiation exposure from uranium mining right here in Wyoming. Anyways, that is an example of environmental justice, right? And this kind of eco-justice that's happening. And it's happening all over our country, because the more population density that happens, the more that certain populations have to live by, say, large mines, large refineries, contaminated and polluted waters. Anyways, why do those populations live there? How can we change this so that folks aren't born with deformities and or it doesn't lead to early chronic illnesses? So big conversation. And then of course, conservation is another huge working area for applied anthropologists, from marine conservation to specific smaller endangered species conservation. I do a lot of work with the National Science Foundation and Botanic Gardens and conservation. And Botanic Gardens, if you don't know, they're a beautiful place to go see, scenery and flowers and all those things, but they also play a vital role in conservation. And so a lot of cultural anthropologists actually work alongside biologists and things at Botanic Gardens for conservation purposes. Anyways, the environment's a huge topic in anthropology. We have a task force in anthropology to actually help deal with climate change. If you are interested in any of these things, please let me know. Again, this is one of my areas of expertise. And I love to discuss this with amazing students and colleagues. So with that, that's the focus of this chapter, okay? And then for the rest of the week, you literally have your key concepts for your exam 2. That is really straightforward. Again, there's nothing from the environmental chapter on there. I just want you to know that we're living in the Anthropocene, and that anthropology is having a very direct applied impact on positive efforts in conservation, in understanding the Anthropocene, in environmental justice movements, all of those things. Anthropologists, and particularly, I feel like, but it's because I am one, cultural anthropologists, those who study living cultures and how they interact with their environment. We're really trying hard to have an impact on where we are in the environment. So please get done with your key concepts. Do that before you take the exam, and you will do great. So with that, my friends, thank you from the bottom of my heart for a great course. I hope to run into you in person. Again, I know it's a hard learning environment too, with being online asynchronous, but thank you for your time and attention to this topic. It is an incredible topic, one that is so important to me and to others to really take a hard, critical look as to how people do the things that they do in the way that they do, without just accepting from them that they do it in that way. That didn't make a ton of sense. Let me rephrase that. People say that they do certain things, that they live certain ways. Anthropologists uncover whether or not that's the truth, right? By analyzing, by doing that participant observation, by doing surveys, by doing interviews, by being on the ground, looking at a particular problem, place, or idea, and actually analyzing that in a very robust, thorough format. That's anthropology. And that's cultural anthropology, understanding how humans enact with something else, right? Even with each other. Anyways, I love this study. I hope you've enjoyed it. I hope you enjoyed the free textbook. Again, I don't want to charge students for having to read just for 6 weeks. But let me know if you have any questions. Best of luck with your future. Best of luck with your studies and your future career and endeavors. And thank you again for your hard work. And I hope to talk to you all again soon.